I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, we come up with more harebrained ideas for the 2020 season.
Jana admits she's stupid. I haven't brushed my hair in a week. We don't know what day it is. And Planet Head can't wait to attend a NASCAR game. Time for a quick look at the SRBB headlines.
LeBron James's production company, Uninterrupted, will produce a documentary about the Astros cheating scandal.
Governors in New York, California, Texas, Arizona, and Colorado are willing to let crowdless baseball happen in their states.
Neither of the Dodgers franchise entries, the 1955 and 1977 teams, made it out of the first round of the Dream Bracket 2. The 55 Dodgers were swept by the 1984 Padres, and the 77 team was beat by the 2019 World Series champs, the Nationals.
Proposal by 5 major conference coaches could move the College World Series to July, beginning in 2022. And that's it for this week's headlines. Find those and past week's headlines at siblingrivalrybb.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB. On Twitter, Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. Tell us what you think via show at siblingrivalrybb.com. In previous weeks, we've discussed different ideas about getting the 2020 season going. Some of them were based on actual proposals. Most of them were under the harebrained ideas. And here we are again, as we wait for a real proposal to get approved between MLB and MLBPA, we've come up with a couple of more ideas to go along with the Survivor Ball, baseball, Thunderdome, the Gong Show. This time we're talking about combining a couple of sports.
NASCAR has, I think, the biggest viewership of, I wouldn't say of all sports, but it's a big chunk of viewers for NASCAR. And they are racing at the racetracks, no fans, but they're racing. Of course, people are watching it on TV because they're clamoring for sports. Planet Head, our friend of the show, is come up with another harebrained idea. How about you have NASCAR race and you have the infield, a nice grassy infield, put a baseball diamond in the middle of that infield while they're racing, have a baseball game. And you get the two together, and the viewership between the NASCAR fans, baseball fans, and then just people who want to see what's going on, because that's really crazy. It could be out of this world, explosive, like break records, viewership records across everything.
I think, yeah. As you're saying that, I'm trying to envision what it would look like. The tracks are pretty big. They're pretty long.
Yeah.
You're going to have an area that has to be of the infield because people go and buy tickets to sit in the infield. They'll park their RVs.
True.
You do have an area that has to be for the pit area for
right.
the car. So you figure out how to put in the field, and then instead of putting up a fence out in the outfield, why not have those people park their RVs along the edge, whatever the outfield limit would be for the wall, at 400 feet, and have them just arc across. And they get a discount if they decide to park there in case their motorhomes get hit with baseballs.
Right. I was just going to say, probably have to sign a liability waiver of some sort.
Sign a waiver, get a discount for parking in that area.
Yes.
And then you put up the regular netting in different areas, but there's no fans right there, or there could be some fans in different areas. Maybe they even kind of park along the sides and behind home plate.
Yeah.
And while they're racing, if a ball goes out and hits the track, then that just adds a degree of difficulty. They've got to constantly be watching because a ball might be hit out of the park, as it were, or a foul ball back up and over.
Yeah, right into a windshield.
Right. As you're going into one of the turns, boom.
It could even possibly go through the car.
Right. Yeah. So not only would you get the excitement of the race, the fun of the game, when things like that happen, it could turn the whole thing. The guy who's been leading the race for 3/4 of the race, all of a sudden takes a baseball to the windshield and crashes? Or what if he takes the baseball, swerves a little bit, and then holds on to still win the race?
That would be amazing. What about the players that aren't playing could also be part of the pit crew for some of the drivers?
That's right. You're not on the bench. You're part of the pit crew until they need you.
Yeah, help out, learn a new trade. I don't know.
That could be.
But you also
life after baseball. You could become a pit crew, and I'm sure some of those guys probably like NASCAR.
Oh yeah,
or racing.
I'm sure there's fans.
They would find fun in doing that. Could be one of those things. I always wanted to do that.
So this, you get, like I said, you get the NASCAR fans, you get the baseball fans, and you could have pitcher and pitcher. So if you're more of a baseball fan, then you could have your main pitcher be baseball, and then the race up at the top, and vice versa. Now the other thing is there was about one of the most hated players in baseball, Carlos Correa, and who would want to face him in the octagon? So you could also throw in the UFC because the infield is pretty big. So at one end you'd have the ball field, and then at the other end you could have the octagon. And so maybe, we talked about during Survivor Baseball, if there was a challenge, they had to do, an actual challenge, eat a worm or, whatever it was.
Right.
This time they have to face somebody in the octagon. It would be timed, because you couldn't be there forever. I don't know, 2 minutes in the octagon. That could be interesting.
You could do that, or instead of battle on the ball field like the brawls, the pitcher throws instead of throwing at him to get back at. Of course, any team that plays the Astros is going to spend most of the time out in the octagon, but instead of throwing at him, go, you know what? I want to take him on 2 minutes in the octagon.
That's right.
And if the pitcher wins, they're out.
Yeah.
Altuve is a strikeout.
Yes.
If Altuve wins, then he gets the walk. He gets to go to first base.
All right. Yeah, I like that. So then, not only are you bringing in, NASCAR baseball, but then you're also bringing in those UFC fans. You've got car crashes, then you've got baseball, fights. That all melds really well together.
The challenges could be, it's one thing if the players fight each other, but the challenge is, if you challenge a call and you go to the octagon, you actually fight a real UFC fighter. You fight like Conor McGregor kind of guy.
I don't know. That would be scary.
Well,
but he would do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that's what you do, because then that really brings in a little bit of everybody. And you're only in for 2 minutes. So the question is, do you fight hard for those 2 minutes? If Manfred wants to really cut down the time of games, who's going to challenge? If they know that they got to take on one of the top people in UFC.
Yeah, Conor McGregor, if he was in the octagon waiting, I'd say, nope, that's okay, I'm out. I'm good.
Right?
Yeah, I'm good.
There's different levels, so it's not like you're going to take on the heavyweight champ or something of UFC.
Right.
You take on somebody who's appropriate, but it would be a champ or somebody high up there. It's not like in wrestling where Hulk Hogan and he's taking on Bob Jones.
Right.
Bob Jones is going to lose.
Yeah.
So it would be something like that. It's got to be, because then people are going to look, ooh, I want to see Conor McGregor. I want to see this particular UFC fighter take out whoever you hate. Whether it be an Astro, I want to see him fight.
An Astro.
And actually, you could have the women's champions get in there too if they wanted to.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, they totally could.
They probably
I was
most
thinking
of the ball players as well.
Probably. I was thinking too, as a punishment, the Astros don't get to play, and they are the designated people that have to go in the octagon every time.
Astros, you'll be at every game this season.
That's right.
That is a punishment I could get behind.
I think it's something we should petition Rob Manfred to
Call
do.
MLB. Let's get this going.
Bryce Harper also has come out with his own ideas on getting a season played in 2020. He put his proposal out on Instagram, and he said it 135 game schedule that would begin July 1st and end on November 15th over a span of 138 days. Teams would play 13 straight days, ending the stretch with a Sunday doubleheader consisting of consecutive 7-inning games. Where these games would be played, he wasn't clear on that, but every other Monday would then serve as an off day. And also, if there was a rain out, then I guess it could serve as a makeup day. Harper said 30-man rosters with 6-man pitching rotations to save pitchers from wear and tear. He says this idea would have some flexibility depending on what the pitchers are comfortable with, but he is thinking about an East-West dynamic for divisions like the NBA. Mm-hmm. And then a straight up conference setup without divisions would make sense given his postseason plans, which he calls for 10-team round robin type tournament with several best of 3 series, wild cards, and all kinds of craziness. It would be like the College World Series, where you've got the rounds, that format. 3-game series, you win the series, you move on, you lose, you play the other loser in a 1-game wild card. The winner of that moves on, and the other team is out. He talked about maybe playing it in Texas, but he also said maybe playing it in Vegas.
Works out for him.
Right, yeah, since he's from Las Vegas, because they could use one hotel for all the guys. And then the 2 teams left would play 7-game World Series. They get 2 days off before the series, and with those 2 days off, that's when you could do the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby. That's a lot to...
That's crazy. The World Series would be in a neutral location. That's a dome stadium. Vegas, I don't know about, because where would they play in Vegas? At the AAA teams?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah,
I didn't want to do that just so he could be at home the whole time.
Probably. I think that's probably what the factor was there. Of course, is he going to be part of the World Series? I don't know. It was wishful thinking maybe on his part.
But he'd still be at home either way.
Exactly.
So that would put like the playoffs in the World Series into like December.
Yeah, because the season, July 1st and end on November 15th.
Right. So it would take into, with the 10 teams and a round robin type setup. Yeah, we're talking December. Now, how does that affect 2021 season? It's going to end in December, and then roughly 2 months later, pitchers and catchers report. So they're not going to have the time off that they normally do.
Right.
Regular off season.
Yeah, because pitchers and catchers report early mid-February usually.
Yeah, usually around the 14th or 15th of February.
Yeah, so that does cut in to their time. I don't know, they could slip it a week. I don't know if that would make a big difference in the whole scheme of things.
I think that actually comes out to be a harebrained idea versus
something. Yeah,
he was trying to not be. He was trying to be serious about it.
Yeah,
there's just the playoff thing made sense.
Right. Yeah.
He's pushing to play as many games as possible. The original, I know they're working it out right now as far as pay goes, but the original idea was they get paid for every game up 1/162nd of their pay for every game played. So basically, just break it down. Each game I make this amount of money. Each game I make this amount of money. So that's what I'll make based on how many games we play. So if they played 135, see, that's one thing I don't see the owners going for.
No, I mean, we have only heard, 80, 81 games, 82 games, something like that. So yeah, 135 isn't going to fly, but it would be that would be a bonus for the players.
So I'm okay with this. I mean, I like Survivor Baseball, Thunderdome, Gong Show. This could be fun though to put those things together because you'll get people like me. I don't care that about NASCAR.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan either.
I could watch a little bit of both. And if it meant that not only that there'd be baseball, it'd be something different, could add some fun with balls hitting the track.
Yes.
And then potentially seeing some of the Astros, at least Carlos Correa, getting knocked out, that would be worth it.
Yeah, I think people would pay big money to see that.
And if to throw in part of Bryce Harper's idea, they could just do it in Vegas.
True.
There is a racetrack in Vegas.
There's a racetrack. There's a place for them to set up the octagon at the casino. I think they do that anyway, don't they? Have their fights there most of the time.
But see, they would do that out on the infield with the game. But it would be in Vegas. So part of Bryce Harper's idea.
Yes.
And mostly our idea.
And you're right. Yeah, so it would be out there, but it'd still have that Vegas feel because there's a feel about Vegas, right? The people, the sports betting, they would be going crazy because they could bet on the race, the game, and the fight.
They've got all of those. They've got the little prop bets that they could do. How many baseballs will end up on the track?
Yes.
How many wrecks will there be because of the baseball?
Yep. And with those caution flags come out when the baseballs hit, so then they have to go around slower. And then pit stops, and how does that work? And
how about this? You hit the windshield, or you hit something that causes a crash and eliminates. The driver can challenge the player that hit the home run or hit the ball into that to a fight in the octagon.
That would be awesome. Yes.
So that way, because, a lot of the players are going to go, I don't want to go out there and fight anybody.
Right.
So we got to have something else because then the UFC thing just kind of sits there. The octagon sits quietly. I guess you could have some other battles going on in there so you could have some championship fight going on in there during the game and the race. And then next up, Kyle Busch taking on Cody Bellinger or whatever. Right?
Or whatever. Yeah.
I like it.
I think, yeah.
I'm a little more excited about that now.
I know. It sounded a little.
I guess the drivers could challenge one another as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
they could if they crash. Yeah.
And then they could stop the race, go out, battle it out, then go back in and get in their cars.
Yeah. It's a win-win for everyone.
From our harebrained ideas to what's actually happening in the real world, proposal from the owners sent to the players. Players have responded. We don't know all the details about it. We know a lot of the questions that they had or a lot of the things they talked about were connected to the health issues. I know they have issues with no high fives, no spitting. There have been a lot of player reactions to this. Obviously, the owners don't have to say or do anything. They just sit back and let the players dig the hole.
Yeah, pretty much, which Blake Snell started that hole last week with his comments about not playing and just seemed really short-sighted.
It's definitely not. He didn't think of it in terms of how the fans would take it. He's talking about getting a third of his salary, which is a little over $2 million. There's people out there who, at 100% of their salary, never see $2 million.
Right.
So he was a little tone deaf to the world and what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing is the situation now, and then to hear those comments, that's like, where are you? What planet are you living on right now?
The thing that gets me though is that the players are always the ones who take the attacks. Wait, you're playing a game and you're making $10 million a year and you're complaining? The owners never get any grief or rarely get any grief about this. Nobody's hollering about anything that the owners may have said or done. The owners are trying to protect their money. The players are trying to protect their money.
Yeah.
If we were asked to go, if we were working at this time frame or any time frame and our employer came up and said, hey, we're having a tough year. This part of our income is not going to be coming in. Can you take just a third of your salary? We're not going to be happy with that. Albeit a third of our salary may not pay our rent. From that standpoint, They need to look at it as to what the fans, the people who are actually going to make up that amount that aren't going to be there, that contribute 3/4 of their salary or 2/3 of their salary or whatever it is by showing up at ball games. But the owners also need to take into account, hey, these guys live at a certain amount. They expect a certain amount of money that you agreed to pay them.
Yeah, they agreed to the amount, so it's not like they can complain about it. I think part of the reason that the owners kind of get away with things are because they're not as visible. The players are out there, and who the owners, I don't know if fans even really know who the owners are. I'm sure they do, but they probably don't even think about them. They're just the people that own the team. Yeah, they get to kind of hide, and the owners do a good job of allowing the players to take the brunt. And that was the thing about Blake Snell, is he shouldn't have said anything, because I think he kind of fell into the trap.
Oh yeah, he was easy. He took the cheese.
Yeah.
He didn't even sniff around it for a little bit before trying to get it. He went right after it. Now, while other players didn't come out and say exactly what he said, they did somewhat agree with him. Nolan Arenado, Clayton Kershaw, about, hey, we thought that this was already done.
Right. Yeah, because they had agreed in March.
There was a thing that's come out recently that they've said there was a stipulation in there that if something changed, they could renegotiate. Just because you can renegotiate doesn't mean you have to renegotiate. And it doesn't mean that the players are going to back off of their position.
Right. I think it's just a sticky situation all the way around, because no matter, all the fans want baseball back. But when you have players and owners and they're arguing about money, then it really just leaves fans with a bad taste in their mouth. And then also, but people that aren't fans that see what's going on, and probably it's amplified even more because of the situation that we're all currently in, and that there are people out there struggling, and unemployment and things like that. And then you have these players and owners, and that's what they're fighting over, is money. So yeah, I understand
versus millionaires.
Exactly.
And it's something that on both sides they should look and see and notice that people just aren't going to buy into it. And in the big picture, they were in a great position to begin with, because if they came back, especially being the first sport to come back, they would once again put themselves in the spotlight. People would say, thanks to baseball, we had something more. It made isolating, quarantining better.
Yeah, gave them something to look forward to.
And now even if it happens, they're digging themselves a hole. And I think it also shows that next year, because at the end of next year, the collective bargaining agreement is done. They're negotiating a new one. In the past, there were issues. Remember a couple of years ago when there was talk of collusion, how many players didn't get signed until after spring training, even after the beginning of the season?
That's right.
Kenley Jansen came out and said things critical of ownership and the league in regards to how they handled all of that. This, depending on how it all plays out, is going to set up those negotiations coming up.
Yeah, I was looking through looking at reactions, and one of them was from the San Diego Padres catcher, and he's also a union rep, Austin Hedges, and he said he was optimistic about an agreement being reached, but he did acknowledge that players will likely have to accept another pay reduction. That could be in the future, but of course we don't know. Hopefully we'll hear more. It seems things are under wraps, and maybe they're under wraps because of reactions that are coming out from negatively, not a positive reaction. So they're just kind of we'll just keep it to ourselves for right now until maybe they do reach the agreement. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that makes more sense. Obviously, we want to hear what's going on where they're at, but if they're just kind of keeping it on the DL there, it makes more sense. The question is, and a lot of players have come out. I know, like Mark Teixeira, we talked about last week or week before. He said, hey, don't let this money get in your way. Get out there and play. Take whatever they're going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
And his thing was no money is worse than the money you're going to get. And then you get to play the game. I'm sure that that's true for some of the players. I was reading a story by Jeff Passan on ESPN where he talked to a player who doesn't make that much and said that by the time that he pays like clubhouse dues and does the stuff that he's supposed to do, he'll get about $200,000 for the season. Now, that's still quite a bit of money for most people, but it's not like Blake Snell and 2 point whatever million. This is a really more reasonable amount that there's people out there who do make $200,000 a year.
Right. Yeah.
And then think about, because of the way the season's going, there's no minor league games. So the players that don't end up making it on to probably one of the taxi squads, the extended, that 20 extra, because they're talking about a 30-man roster, 20-man taxi squad. If you don't make it onto that taxi squad, then you're just off for the year. You got to go find something else to do, because in the summer you're expecting to get paid.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, and the owners, though, could step up and pay those minor leaguers. They could give them, I think I saw somewhere, they could pay the minor leaguers like $400 a week, and it still wouldn't put a dent in the owner's pocketbook, but it would be giving those minor league players something other than nothing, because right now there's not going to be a minor league season. And so then you're leaving those guys out on the line to, like you said, to go figure out something else to do. The owners could chip in and help them out. But, I also saw a thing about the Angels owner. He's worth like $3.3 billion. And they're furloughing the workers, I guess, in the offices, I guess.
Well, so they're like gutting the scouting staff.
Yeah.
Right before the draft. That's been the big thing. A lot of talk about that. And the one word that I've seen on a couple of different articles, LA Times, Orange County Register, and a few others, aggressively cutting.
Yeah.
And those who have been told that they're going to be kept on through the draft, have been told that shortly after the draft they'll be furloughed. And those are people that are part of your everyday staff. And I get there's nothing going on. You can't go out and scout. Scouting, we could talk about this another time, but scouting is one of those things that's been set to be cut because they're using more analytics.
True.
I saw somebody in an article, and it may have been in that Jeff Passan article, there was a mention of, remember what the lesson in Moneyball was. You can take everything on an analytical side, but you still need scouting. You still need feel. It can't just be all numbers. That gets you so far. The other movie, and when I saw that, the one that I thought about was the movie Trouble with the Curve. It's not a great baseball movie. It's a good baseball movie overall. Yeah. But that's not the story. Baseball just is what it revolves around, like the world. Yeah, it revolves around. It's
more a relationship story, but
yeah. But the idea was Shaggy, and I can't remember his name. The guy who plays Shaggy in Scooby-Doo live action movies.
I don't remember either. We'll just go with Shaggy.
And he's been in other baseball. He was in Summer Catch, also not a great baseball movie, but more baseball but a relationship movie as well. Plus the rich girl and the poor guy, the baseball. Anyway, that's a whole different.
Now you're writing Hallmark movies.
Right. Hey, to me, that seems like a lucrative idea right there.
Yeah.
How many do they make a year? I could be making some bank.
You could. I think you should start that.
But the thing with Moneyball was the scouts, they're watching this one player who was a good player, but they're looking at his numbers and only at his numbers. They were looking at another player that Clint Eastwood's character, who's a scout, had signed and was in a slump. And he's like bad-mouthing this kid because he's not doing anything. Clint Eastwood's an older guy. He's got all the old school things. But it showed that you can track somebody and see what their numbers are and still not have a clue who the player is. The two things, in-person scouting and the analytic, can go hand in hand so that you can actually really have a feel for a player and do you really want them? Like the guy who played the GM in the movie, who was I don't remember his name either. He was the bad guy in one of the Terminator movies that came after Arnold and after the Connors.
Oh, yeah.
He was like
I just watched
liquefied,
that the other day.
liquid metal and all that stuff. And he's been in other things, but
Like Peter Weir or something
Peter
like
Weir
that.
was RoboCop.
Oh, that's right. See, I'm getting my. We watched all of them lately.
It and find out what it was. But he was in there and he was like the daughter, Amy Adams, in just pure scouting, finds this kid who can pitch pretty well, gets them to watch him at the kid that they were after, that they drafted first overall. He comes in and pitches to the guy who went to the same school as that kid, the number 1 draft pick, and was like sold peanuts at the ball games or something like that. So he's like, oh, this is going to be ugly. The number 1 draft pick does. And then the kids strike him out, not only with fastballs, but then he throws the curve and the kid can't hit anything. And the GM's like, well, he's got talent, but he's not a number 1 draft pick. He's like a project.
Yep.
That's that thing. If you don't ever see it, cutting all those things, I think we're going to see, and we mentioned this last week, we're going to see the effects of what happened this season in the next few seasons. Because they're going to cut people and they're going to go, let's try this without them. And then people like Artie Moreno, who's already made some other bad moves since he's on the team.
Yeah, we've talked about a few.
He's too proud to admit that he made a mistake. And a lot of those owners are probably going to be that way as well.
Yeah, I think so.
We're not going to bring these guys back in. And that's even a whole different story to this. My biggest issue has been, as far as reactions go, the players I get, they're personally invested in this and it's their money.
Right. And they're the ones working,
Right.
They're doing
That's
the job.
The thing I've always told people is, if you want to get somebody's attention, mess with their money.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I got on my soapbox at the beginning when it was, can't be away from my kids or I can't do this. And I have my rant. It's up on our website.
SiblingRivalryBB.com, by the way. That's
right. But I was looking at it from a different perspective. I wasn't looking at the money perspective. I mean, I guess I kind of was, because I'm under the impression, if you don't want to play, you don't play and you let somebody else play. But I do see where they're coming from, because you're right. As soon as money gets thrown in, then that's it. You're not touching my money.
Right. And there are players who have health concerns, whether it be for themselves. Sean Doolittle from the Nationals, his wife has respiratory issues. His concern is he's going to get it from somebody. He's healthy, but he's going to get it from somebody, not know it, take it home to her, and it'll affect her. So I get stuff like that that's his concern. There's other players, you don't think about it because they're athletes, they're in great shape mostly, but some of these guys have diabetes, they have type 1 diabetes.
Right.
They have other things that are just things they've always had. And what is the term? Immunocompromised.
Well, and I take immunosuppressive drugs because I have an autoimmune disease, and I don't know of anybody in baseball. There probably is somebody playing baseball that has I have Crohn's disease. So, but I know there's some guys that play in the NFL with the same thing. So, yeah, I'm in that category. So I can
do with auto-tune, right?
No auto-tune.
So like if you sing, you don't have that like weird sound to your voice. It's not auto-tune disease.
No, but that would be kind of cool during karaoke. I like that. You just instantly always be in tune. Yeah, I like that. But yeah, so there are people that because we don't think about it. We talked about Jackie Robinson. He had diabetes,
right?
When he was playing.
He had a couple of things, the diabetes, and other things.
But you think about it because they maintain. They're taken care of, and you don't see it. And that is the thing about autoimmune diseases. Most of the time when you see somebody, they're fine. You don't know anything about it. But yeah, so it does. And then of course their families too. That's why I think, how does that work too with the players and the isolation? The testing, because Mike Trout said they'd have to be tested every day. He wants to play. He supports the temporary fanless model because at this point, that's what it's going to have to be. And the owners were saying, well, we'll test, several times during the week. Mike Trout thinks that it's going to be the players being tested. Well, not just the players, everybody involved being tested every day.
Right, because what if somebody is asymptomatic and they're getting tested every 2 or 3 days. The problem with that, though, is that they have one lab. It's in Utah. So if everybody's playing at their own home stadiums, you got to send it off. And I know they can do it overnight. You know, they said they'll have within 24 hours. But if you're doing it every day, I think you'd want to have the immediate result test that they can do it and within just moments know whether you have it.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. I just don't see that they're going to be able to make that happen reasonably unless they start putting labs in the ballparks.
Dodger Stadium is opening up its parking lot for testing. So they are going to be able to test, I think they said 6,000 people or more going through Dodger Stadium parking lot. So, and I just read that this week.
But
so
how long is it?
Doable.
But is the test given and then you find out later, or is it immediate?
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think it's an immediate. I'm sure you find out later. You get tested. You know, just they're drive-through testing sites, so is what it is.
So I think that there's a lot on that particular thing. There's a lot that has to be figured out, and if you can't figure it out, like for the whole country. And I know they'll put big money into it, like they secured that lab in Utah because they're paying for it.
Right.
That's going to be the questions. Can that happen? And for people like Mike Trout, whose reasoning is, I don't want to get it and then take it home to my pregnant wife.
I think that's where the whole put them in the hotel, you know, in a single place, kind of quarantine them came into play, but all of the players balked at that. It's risk. There's always going to be risk in everything that they do. Because the other thing is they had 67-page, just the health safeguards that they were going to do. No spitting, which.
Right. No high fives, no spitting.
No. No showers. No showers.
I think that's one of the things that they'll let go.
Yeah.
Hot tubs or cold tubs, the therapy things after the game. That was one of the big things they balked at. I don't see how the owners can't just say, okay. What I think, though, is that the owners really have less to lose if there's no season than the players do. The players lose their paychecks, minus whatever they got at the beginning that the owners gave to them. If they don't play a single game, they don't get anything this season. The owners save any of that money that they didn't have to pay out. Plus, any furloughs and things that they're doing. They're not paying for the stadium staff, aside from what some of them are paying to June, or they tried to give them a little bit, but within reason. The players, on the other hand, don't get anything. The owners have that. Plus, many of those owners have outside businesses. So they're still making money from this or from that. The only people that should probably be talking about this right now are the owners and the players. Those should be the ones that are actually talking about this and working it out, how it's going to affect each side. Players that are coming out, people like A-Rod. A-Rod used his suspension, missing a whole year, as part of his remarks about this, is that I know what it's like not to play. I messed up. He's trying to get on the good side. This is part of his Hall of Fame publicity tour by saying that. But the next thing he says is players need to just take this. They ought to be just happy they get to play and not miss out on a whole season like I did. You missed out on a whole season because you're an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to miss out if they miss out on a whole season, it's not going to be because they decided to take performance enhancing drugs or cheat. They're out whether they feel like they can't play for health reasons, whether their own, or like Sean Doolittle and his wife and other players who have that. Mike Trout, Clayton Kershaw's even kind of said that he doesn't want to get something and take it home to his family.
Right.
Many of those players are saying the same thing. They're talking about the money. They're talking about that. A-Rod says, no, go play. Well, I think A-Rod and Mark Teixeira are saying those things. They work for ESPN.
Well, Mark Teixeira made $213 million in his career.
And he was a player rep for the union.
Yeah. So yeah,
But
there's
and
certain
how
the
much does he
guys that
make
are,
at ESPN?
yeah, I don't know.
Are those
You
guys
know,
not getting paid? If do they only get paid? I don't know how ESPN works, if they get a contract and you're just there, or
mm-hmm.
is he not get paid if there's no games? Does A-Rod not get paid if there's no game? Bob Nightingale. I used to read Bob Nightingale. He was in the Riverside Press Enterprise, and he just never seems to get anything right, in my
Yeah,
opinion. He's been
that's
around for a
true.
long time, but he just seems to, and he's another one. And I get probably his opinion is go play because he needs something to write about. He's not good enough to come up with a bunch of good stories and figure out how to keep people engaged. So we got to get games back because, and I think it's from a personal standpoint. Well, we all want it from a personal standpoint. Think about this. Our podcast, when we sat down and decided to do this, was going to be about stories that came up, but we were going to talk about the Dodgers and the Angels games,
Mm-hmm.
what happened last week, what's going on this week, and then look around at some of the other games that had greater significance. This is our 10th episode, and we've had no games to talk about unless we decided to go KBO.
Yeah, which I was just going to mention KBO. I wonder if the players union and if MLB, any of the owners, are they looking at KBO because they have, they prohibit spitting. There's no high fives. The umpires wear masks and gloves, and the players and coaches get their temperatures taken before coming into the stadium. So then I'm going to get into the stadium. And if any team member tests positive at any point during the season, then the league is suspended a minimum of 3 weeks. And so far, it's been successful. So it's a
The
different.
managers, I've seen managers and coaches wearing masks. The
Yes.
players, they talk about this, and I think this came up too, was the players being separated on the bench, and the extended roster players will sit up in the seats
Mm-hmm.
instead of being
Yeah.
down in the dugout. But on KBO, all the players are there together. So I don't see why if they're taking all the precautions, they're testing often. People are wearing masks that need to wear masks, and they're taking temperatures and all that stuff. Then just let them be a team.
Yeah.
I think you take away bits and pieces of the game, the more you take away from that. If you're going to allow them all to be in the same place, then just allow them to be a team.
Yeah, I think Dennis Eckersley, we know him as the guy who gave up Kirk Gibson's awesome home run in the game 1 of the '88 World Series. That's how I know him. I don't know of anything else.
He was the brake light. He was the brake light pitcher.
Yeah,
because if you remember,
that's right.
everybody
Yes.
that was leaving, as soon as they heard it on the radios, the brake lights all went on throughout.
Yes,
the
sea
parking
of
lot.
red.
Yeah.
Yes.
The sea of red.
Yep. He was talking about how he didn't think it was confident that they could police the social distancing on the field because he said it's going to take some doing. This thing could blow up in their faces. I hate to say that, but it could. Don't think that they don't know all the things that could happen. There's a lot of risk involved for everybody. Everybody wants to play. He also said that players are superstitious and it's going to be difficult for them to break away from normal routines. But he said he's most concerned about a player unknowingly spreading the virus if they were to stay in a hotel or return home. Out of the reactions that I've heard, especially from former players, he is the most pessimistic about baseball returning, especially on July 4th, because that's not going to happen. But that was oh, how awesome would it be? Baseball, American Pie, and the 4th of July happening. So, I mean, it's doable. It could happen, but it's going to take a lot to get it back. So
No, logistically,
I'm going to be
it's gonna be
optimistic,
tough.
but yeah.
No, I believe that it can happen. I'm not one of those people like, hey, figure it out. Either you are or you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just too many moving pieces to this.
Right.
And everybody's not going to be happy with the end result. Can they live with it is the question. And the problem with that is is that living with it now takes on a whole new meaning with coronavirus.
True.
So
I think too, as we go forward with not just looking at baseball, but looking at, as the states start to reopen slowly, things are starting to reopen. How is that? Because I've seen good and bad. I've seen where a state that just pretty much just opened up and they didn't do it in stages, they're seeing a spike in cases, but that could be a multitude of reasons too. More people are being tested, or they just did it the wrong way. People are coming out of the woodwork, and I don't know. It's just, you're right. It's too many moving pieces, but I hope that they can come to some kind of agreement to get baseball back.
If ever there was a term for the 2020 baseball season, it would probably be what if. What if the season started on time? What if the Dodgers didn't sign Mookie Betts? What if? It's been there. All of our ideas. What if we did this? What if we put them all on an island? What if we had baseball in the infield of a motor speedway with UFC octagon in right field? What if? It's been fun because instead of sitting here grousing every day about, is there a season? Is there not a season? What's going to happen? Why am I stuck at home? Why do I have to wear a mask? Or why isn't that person wearing a mask? Why isn't that person staying at home? Whatever it is.
Why aren't they wearing the mask properly? I can't tell you how many times I see people with their nose hanging out. Cover your nose.
Do it or don't. Just do it right if you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been having all this fun, and we talked about that too. How far will we go? Some of the stories that we've read from different baseball writers, from MLB.com, the different things that they're doing, the Dream Bracket, Players League, all of those things were things to keep people distracted, provide them a little entertainment during this downtime. Well, recently we found a really cool little thing that would allow you, where did this come from? SBNation.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll put our link up on the website and on our social media pages. And you can create your own minor league baseball franchise name. So like the Athens Mountain Emu is what the first thing that came up. And then you can hit a button and it says generate another. And it gave me the Hollywood Barn Pugs. The Barn Pugs.
What? I was going to say that this actually, the Hartford Yard Goats became the Yard Goats because of this generator. And they are a team. They're a real deal. So I came up with the Pueblo Plutonium Beetles. That's
wow.
Pueblo,
that one I like.
Pueblo, Colorado. But the Plutonium Beetles.
One of the Angels farm clubs is in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're called the Rocket City Trash Panda.
I really like that name.
When I saw this, I wondered if they got it from something like this. I understand the Rocket City part because that's where Space Camp is.
Right.
And they have rockets there. There is part of the space program in, of all places, Alabama. So that's where the Rocket City comes from. The Trash Pandas, I haven't done enough research to find out, but it's a good name. I love it. I'm actually thinking about getting a Trash Pandas hat or a T-shirt or something.
Yeah, it's a good logo. I just hit my generator. I got the Santa Rosa Liquor Possum.
Huh?
It could be a possum.
You know, there used to be a team in Santa Rosa. I don't remember what the name, but Santa Rosa was part of the California League for years before they started changing things up, and it was almost all. I think the most southern team in the Cal League was Bakersfield.
Okay.
And now there's teams down like San Bernardino, Lake Elsinore, Rancho Cucamonga.
Well, this probably a far cry. This probably is, they're thinking Santa Rosa, California. It could also be Santa Rosa, New Mexico.
Oh, that's true. And there's a lot of
right off the I-40.
A lot of space in Santa Rosa to build a little stadium there for them.
Yeah, it could really do something for the town. They got the lake there, and they could have the liquor possums.
I like it. Next one that I got, the West Covina Brick Badger.
I got the Knoxville Cyber Bunnies.
That could have a whole bunch of meanings.
Really
when
could.
You put cyber in front of it, it could be. Well, the San Bernardino team is now known as the Inland Empire 66ers, but on here they have the San Bernardino Bridge Orangutans.
Well, how about a place that you know well, the Moreno Valley Ocean Hogs? Ooh, I got one. And this could also be California or New Mexico. The Clovis Space Gars. It's like a gar. Yeah, Gar. So I think it's a fish.
Is that, and where is Clovis in relation to?
So Clovis is in the southeastern part of the state.
Right. That I know. I live
there. Right. You did live there as a child, a young child.
That was when I was an only child, by the way.
That's right. That's right. So Alamogordo is where the space, they have a museum, and they have SpaceX is down there. So it is, I'm not quite sure how far it is.
I'm not thinking of Alamogordo. Roswell.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Roswell was what I was thinking about. So that would actually work, although it's probably would be better in Roswell.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's only a couple hours away.
Yeah. It's like an hour and 50 minutes. Yeah. So that name, the Roswell Space Gars, actually would work a lot better than Clovis. Right. You also learn geography when you're doing this app.
Oh, you could, yeah.
We're all about learning.
And then if you know something about the area, you can see, does it fit? San Mateo Space Moles. Now, do they mean moles like whack-a-mole kind of mole? Or do they mean moles like you better get that checked out, it looks cancerous kind of mole?
It could be either way. I think they could maybe do both. Although I think the whack-a-moles would probably be a better logo than like a hairy mole.
All right. And give me one more and then I'll give you one more.
All right. The Temecula wind alligators.
It does get windy down there.
Yes. I don't think there are alligators there.
Not that I've ever seen. And the last one, this one is especially for Bryce Harper. The Las Vegas beach crabs.
I think that would be... There's no beach in Las Vegas unless there is sand. So maybe that. And Bryce Harper lately does fit that surfer dude kind of look he's got going on. So I think he could rock it.
There's something crabby about him.
Definitely.
We've been talking about what ifs. When we talked about free agents last week, one of the ones that you brought up was George Springer. And it made me think, what if the Astros don't re-sign George Springer because they don't sign cheaters?
You'd be in big trouble.
That'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
Don't forget, we're on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. You can email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. And remember to subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast platform.
Join us next week as we hope to have more details about the 2020 season.
We'll also find out if Janet gets smarter, if I finally brush my hair, and an update on the search for Josh Field.
For crying out loud, please bring baseball back.
Yeah!